Hey there, thank you so much for watching another episode of Lighthouse TV Online. Today's episode is especially special, because there are 3 of us today. So I get to interview 2 people at one time, so we have double the awesome guests. And when I tell you they're awesome, they're awesome. If you live in G-Town like I do, you can't really live here without knowing either of these 2 people. One of them is famous on CFG. And I know that could go either way, but I promise you it's a good thing. And the other one is just famous because her personality is as big as this room. So I can't wait to introduce you guys to these special people today. So stick with us.
Your love's unending, so pursuing, stays renewing my heart. So pour the load of love you hold, God. Show me more of who you are. If you could sacrifice yourself again, just for me, you'd go to the end to see me.
So today we have with us Miss Rhonda Thompson and Mr. Rodney Wright. They're our special guests today, and there's a very special reason that I have 2 people on. But before I get into that, I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about some pre-interview questions that I asked. You know, I talked a little about you being famous on CFG, and I was giving that a little bit of a tease because CFG can definitely be a place where you can be famous for not so great reasons. You're actually famous on CFG because you take some of the most beautiful and incredible nature photographs I've ever seen.
Oh, thank you. I have fun doing it.
So you actually got started doing nature photography because someone randomly gave you a camera, you said, right?
Yeah, I've been bird watching for a long time, 20 plus years or whatever, and I came back to work from break, and there was a paper sack sitting there on my desk, and I opened it up and it had a camera in it. Mm-hmm. Like, no, nothing like that, so I was like, okay. Cool. Then I started taking pictures with it, and I started mainly birds, and I started posting to Facebook, and I started getting a lot of reaction from people, responses from people. People liked them and were commenting on how good they were. I'm like, these aren't really that
They
good.
are so good.
They're so good.
And then, so anyway, I finally found out after about a year who gave it to me, and he died not too long ago.
Wow.
But yeah, it was nice. And I didn't even hardly know this guy. I was helping him out on Facebook. He'd take, because he was taking pictures of birds. He was really old. He was dying at the time, and he didn't know what the birds were. So he'd send me the pictures through messages. What kind of bird is this? So I'd always be kind to him. And after a while, I got kind of old. You know, like, okay, it's the same bird I told you 2 days ago. But anyway, he ended up getting another camera, and he gave me that one. That's kind of what all started for me.
That is so cool. And I'll have to slip a couple of those pictures into the video just because I think you guys need to see. He's really downplaying his skill. He's got great skill. So how long have you been doing it now?
About 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And I graduated to a professional grade camera back in November.
What's your favorite camera choice?
Nikon.
Nikon? Okay. So do you look down on us Canon people?
No.
Okay.
Sometimes we joke with each other though. It's fun. It's all in good fun. It's like I'm the admin on the Kansas Bird Photography page and the Kansas Birding page, and sometimes on the Kansas Birding page, if somebody goes there and says, what can I do different about this picture or whatever, and I'll be like, what are you using? They'll be like, Canon. I'll be like, that's the problem. But it's all in good fun. I know all of them anyway. We're all friends.
That totally sounds like something I would say. And I know you have a sense of humor because you're married to one of the funniest, cutest women I know. His wife is Wright, and I had the pleasure of getting to hear her story and her testimony at the women's retreat one year. Blew me away.
But she doesn't mind being in front of a camera. She's another reason why too. When I first met her, she was just taking pictures all the time. You know, every time we did something, we'd take a picture. Then when we had Sunny, it was picture. Talent, it's just always about taking photos. I'm like, so when we get together for our family things or whatever, Easter, basically anything, I'm prepared to get my picture taken. Anyway, that has rubbed off on me, and now I'm taking pictures of like everything.
As you should.
And it's fun.
You
I like
should,
it.
for sure. That's how we get better, right?
And plus it's got something for the kids to see when they get older. They can look back on pictures.
So Rodney's got a 9-year-old and an 8-year-old girl and boy. Is Talon named after Eagles Talon?
That's part of it. I've always liked the name Talon, and a few years ago when I was struggling with some issues that I had, there was this neighborhood that I lived in, and there was this boy that would show up with their parents sometime. And his name was Talon, and those parents were not good parents at all. And they would have him go outside when we were partying or whatever, and I always felt sorry for that kid. And the name, I always liked the name, and it just kind of, I don't know, I just knew that if I ever had a boy someday that I would like to name him Talon. One, because I love birds, and two, because of that kid. It just takes me back to a place to where I don't want to be.
Right. So just in case you guys didn't catch that reference, so when Rodney's saying like partying, they turned all the way up. Right? Partying in a way that he doesn't party anymore. But I take it that you, even in your time of partying, you were able to see like, man, if God ever blesses me with a son, I really, really want to invest in him and make sure that he never feels like this kid. Is that kind of what you're saying? Yeah. So you mentioned when you got that camera that you got it at work. You want to tell our viewers a little bit about what it is you do? You don't have to give out your specific work location if you don't want to.
Oh, I don't. I work for KDOT, Kansas Department of Transportation, and basically we just help maintain the highway. If signs get knocked over, guardrails get hit, we plow in the winter, if and when it ever snows again. We haven't had much of that in the last few years. Patch potholes, mow. One of the main things I do in the summer is I mow along I-35, 169, and 56 highway. So, and sometimes we have to go out and pick up trash, and I'm sure we'll probably get to that here shortly.
I introduced you as Miss Rhonda Thompson, but we all really know that you are Mrs. Mike Thompson.
Yes, I am.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about how it is that you came to start to kind of introduce yourself. Really, when someone meets you now, you introduce yourself as Mrs. Mike Thompson.
I made that decision after I lost my husband. It was a growing decision, to be honest, to drop the name Fox, which is my children's name from a previous marriage, and lean in to Thompson. But when my husband passed, then my husband had other wives, and I've had other husbands, and I am the mother of adult children, and I have grandchildren. But besides being a Jesus freak, which I hope is the first thing that anybody will see, I had to decide who I really was and who I really am is Mike's wife. I am Mrs. Thompson. And so anything going forward, it's not just Rhonda doing it, I'm taking him with me.
Absolutely. You guys, I like to make sure everything's super clear. When she says that her husband had other wives, he was married previously. They weren't in a polygamous sister-wife type relationship.
We both married, had children, married, divorced, because we liked to party too. And we married other people after that, and then we came back and married each other. So for whatever reason, an internal struggle, who am I now, what am I going to do? And it wasn't like I thought it through, it was just kind of what God said. He was like, well, this is who you are, sister, because we've already decided you're a Christian, and because you're married to Mike Thompson, you did exactly what I say in Ephesians to do, and that is put him next, and so that's who you are.
That's right. And you may have picked up by now that we were talking about Mike in the past tense. Mike is now partying clean and free with our Father and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Yes, he is.
However, it was an unexpected departure. So you want to talk just a little bit about that?
Yes, okay. So my husband and I got up on Sunday morning and we went to church and we did our leadership training, and I went off to the children's nursery and he went home and cut a piece of our lawn that I personally still to this day say he knew better, that it was my flowers, but he said they were weeds, and he started to become irritable. I'm I'm sorry, Jamie.
No,
So-
no worries. No one need to be sorry.
I don't know why I went that far back, I guess, but it's because it really does matter. Because, so, my husband was irritable Sunday afternoon, and I felt like he was picking fights with me, not that a husband would ever do that, but I felt like he was picking fights with me, and now I have to clearly tell this piece because Satan really was hoping that he was going to cause a Thompson argument, a Cold War, as I like to say, so we could be separate. But the Spirit, the Holy Spirit was there because he closed my mouth and helped me kind of, like, okay,
Don't
dude.
you love it when the spirit of shut up just comes upon you?
Oh, God, and he made a comment about, we have 27 dinner plates in here. Do we even know 27 people? Well, you know. Yeah, 5 days later, there's 27 people in the house, honey, because you're dead. So, you know, it was just an odd thing for him to say, but then those plates came out of that cabinet. I mean, seriously, came out and were being used. And so then Sunday evening, you know, we're watching TV and he's, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to look at you. So Monday he goes to work, goes to men's group, had a conversation in between work and men's group in the boudoir about some people we love and their infidelity in their household and what the conversation with her had been. And I just asked him, just kind of, what do you think it is, honey? What do you think it is that keeps us from doing that? And he said, our faith. Well, to be honest, as a woman in that moment, that's not really what I thought that I wanted to hear. I was like, but, and then he said sweet things, you know, because he's silver-tongued. But the fact that he said the faith, right? Went to men's group, hung out with his buddies, came home, got up the next morning. I woke up and thought, why are all the lights on? And I reached over and touched him because I could tell he was still there on the bed. And he was sitting up and he was cold and he was wet. And I remember thinking, well, he hasn't taken a shower yet, because I could see as I turned my body, I could tell that he was in pain. I think I slowly turned, because maybe inside me I knew at this point, because you just, I don't know. So my sweetheart told me he thought that he had to poop. And I said, I don't think you have to poop, sweetheart. I said, I'm calling an ambulance. And of course he argued, because he's a man. And he was trying his best to be a man about it. I convinced him that we were going to go to the emergency room. He let me dress him. We got in the car. I got behind the wheel and went to start the car. And in his heart attack, he decided that he needed to remind me that the emergency brake was on. So he did. So now I've got my sick husband, right? I know, but I don't know, but I know. But dude, really? Right now you gotta tell me about the emergency brake? So we back out, we're driving, and you know, on the highway, on the ramp, and he said, be careful, honey, and no, you're not a very good driver. I said, okay. And I drove a little bit further, and I thought he was throwing up. But I'm convinced, absolutely convinced, and I wish that the next time I told the story I didn't feel so hesitant. My husband had brown eyes, beautiful brown eyes, and they were blue. And somewhere in the hysteria, somewhere in the, I can see the fingertips of on the steering wheel, and him leaning into me, right, and me noticing that his eyes were blue, and I'm reaching in to get my phone out of my bra, because I know the rest of me is going to call 911, but his eyes were blue. Well, now I know why. It's because that's what happens, I guess, when Jesus comes and gets you. I mean, it was, I believe now that Jesus was in the car.
Mm-hmm.
So he took my husband.
Mm-hmm.
Because I said my husband died of a heart attack, but I don't really know.
Mhm.
People know, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It says on the death certificate, but I don't know. I personally don't know.
What do you mean, you don't know?
I don't know if it was a blood clot or,
That's what I always wondered.
yeah, or a heart attack or
Because
whatever
his
it
knee
was.
surgery was 6 months prior, a year prior.
8, but still, didn't it look
Yeah.
hokey to you a little bit?
Well, he usually had pants on or something. When he came to CR, I mean, like right after it happened, I don't think he ever missed a Celebrate Recovery meeting, did he? He might have missed one.
He missed the day of the surgery and then like the next one, yeah.
But he was like always there, oh, it's all right. You know,
Yeah.
me, if it was me, I would have been like, you know,
Yeah.
I'm home in bed, but he was a tough guy. He was a
For
really
sure.
tough guy.
Yeah.
He loved Jesus and he just wanted to be there to share what he's learned through recovery, and I'm glad that he did.
So he definitely impacted all of our lives. Now, with you, she's dedicated still to this very day to Mike Thompson. When
Oh,
she comes to church and she sits, like she can feel the very same spot where they sat together as a couple. She brings this Bible to church every single week. And so that's kind of how things got intertwined here. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about the day that you came to church with the Bible?
so we attended church on Saturday nights. My husband, Michael, greeted at the front door, which meant that he was going to come in after worship started, the knee, right? So he prefers to sit on the aisle, you know, on the left to get the knee out. And I'd sit next to him. Well, I'm a worshiper.
That's right.
So the lights are down, the music's playing, and people are worshiping. And it had to have happened. It happened all the time. I don't know how it happened or why, but his sweet to not interrupt me, but to let me know that he's there, is as he would slide into the row. Usually, God would put my hand there on the back of the chair and he would rub his fingers. So when Michael passed, again, I didn't choose to, it just happened, but it's very much a part of me now. I leave that seat there. I don't believe that there's anything scripturally that says, I'm very clear that Mike Thompson is not my savior. He's not yours either, right? He was super hot and he was super funny and I loved him. He's not my savior, but he is my husband.
Right.
And the seat there, and I believe that I have felt him. I believe that I have worshiped and I have just felt him. And I feel like because in this, there's just no way that you could know the Mike and Rhonda story and not know that, oh, those fools had nothing to do with what happened. It was all God. And so no matter where we are, Mike and I in our life on the outskirts, we religiously came to church on Saturday nights, and in those moments of worship, and we were probably, other than being intimate, closer than we were at any other moment. So it really, and we knew this. This isn't just me being a girl. This was something that we shared. We knew that if we don't always come back to God, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe you know more of his heart than the girly stuff he would say to me, but we kind of had that agreement that, you know, God, our faith is what was going to keep us together. And I can't say that we have this humongous God that can do anything and yet dilute it down to the fact that he can't allow me for now to just take comfort in this.
Right.
So yes, so I leave the seat empty, I place the Bible that I gave Michael there. I did it because the Bible was what we used at his funeral. People signed it. And so it was more than just the Bible. And I carried it. I brought it and I would put it in the chair.
Well, I think Mike was the same no matter where he went, whether it was men's group, CR, with you. I didn't know him at work, and I didn't know, him and you at home arguing at night or whatever. I didn't know that, but Mike just seemed like he was just always Mike. hot mess.
He's a hot mess. And he stole that hot mess from me. You know that.
Did he? I didn't know that.
Yes.
No, I didn't
And
know
because I stole it from a child at Legacy Fitness, and then he stole it from me. But that's okay. They're
That is
hot mess.
Because when I first kind of got to know him, I mean, we were in life group together for like a year, something like that. I didn't really know you guys that much. We didn't really get deep on a lot of stuff like that. But, you know, once I met him, it was one of the first things he said in the CR group where he introduced himself. Well, my name's Mike and I'm a hot mess. And that's stuck with me. It's, to this day, I use that quite a bit.
But it was a different experience when we were in the life group together. It was the first time that we had come together, right, in a place where we really, truly, Mike and I needed to make a decision. Because we didn't have to tell nobody who we were. Nobody knew, right?
I didn't know that he was a recovering addict at the time.
Right. So, and nobody needed to know that we've been married several times and, you know, our history. We looked super nice. We lived here in Gardner. We had little grandchildren. We'd come and we'd go. But there, in that environment, and I don't know that if I've ever told you this before, but I believe that there was something about you and him and the things that you've shared together. You're much more similar than you probably realize because I'm watching you, right? I believe they were supposed to be together then. And for whatever reason, we just didn't connect.
Well, when I fell back into my partying ways, not as bad as I did when I was younger, like I was talking about earlier, I mean, the first person I called was Mike, and I didn't even really know him. But I knew that God was telling me, that's who you need to call. You need to call Mike Thompson, you need to call him right now. And I did. He met me over at the Walmart parking lot, and I sat there and cried, and he just was there for me when I really, really needed somebody, and that's when I started going to CR, and that's when we hit it off.
His little hands are everywhere.
I don't think you realize, I got to watch that. So I got to watch the Mike Thompson that people were constantly picking up, bailing out, you know, say to me, I'll be back, babe, and go off to be honest and be real and offer help. And that was the value of seeing him and being able to fall in love with that man that God was creating. I don't know that if people understand that part of it for me too. It took courage for you. You had to listen to God to say, wait, you want me to call who, right? And, but for me, those encounters, those things were valuable. And for our son, you know, how that affected him.
When I thought about the format of today's show and interviewing you guys, this wasn't something that I had initially thought of, but this really is what this show is all about, like letting people see that it's when we take off our masks and we show people that we are a hot mess and we don't have everything like as perfect as it might appear on the outside. That's when we can be impactful for Christ. It's not when you have all your T's crossed and all your I's dotted. Maybe for some people that's great and they can see that and that inspires them. But for me, I do much better when I know you've been in a place like my mom's been. When I look at you, I see hope for my mom. I see hope for me. I see we don't have to stick into our patterns of whatever our family has done, whatever has been, people that have lives like this or past like this, that's what they become. They become Mrs. Mike Thompson.
Yeah.
Sign me up for that because that's goals for me. And like same thing with you being transparent and you being like, I know that there are young men that look at your family now and look at your life now and you guys are goals for them. And it's all because you're willing to share that.
Well, I believe it. I'm not just saying this because it sounds pretty. When you did what you did for me.
Okay, so we got to go back to that. What we were talking about, right, is that Rhonda still uses the Bible that she gave to Mike, and so she had brought that Bible to church this particular weekend. However, when you got home from church, you did not have that Bible.
Well, I'm proud to say that we always eat after church because, it's what all good Christians do. And so we went to eat, came home from church, and usually I'm going to church again on Sunday morning, so it was not that unusual to not have it. But Mike's got this very cool box that he's in next to my bed, and I would set the Bible there. So it was kind of odd, that kind of subconscious of, well, something's not right. But it didn't worry me too much until I got into the car Sunday morning and to go to church and realized, oh, it's not in here.
So I want to make sure you guys are completely following. So Mike has passed at this point. Rhonda still carries his Bible to church. At this time, we had services on Saturday night as well as Sundays. And so she had gone to church Saturday night. She had the Bible with her when she went Saturday night. By Sunday morning, that's when you realize that you didn't have the Bible.
Well, and it was the same Bible too. I think you mentioned this earlier, just to make it clear that it's the same Bible that everybody signed at his funeral service.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sunday morning, I get to the car, I walk to the car, no Bible. So now the panic starts. But I'm going to church and it'll be there. Somebody's picked, I've left it in the seat or I've left it at the coffee shop. Somebody's got it. But as the morning goes on, the preparation for the 9 o'clock service and nobody has it, I get a little panicked. I went into the 9 o'clock Bible study, a woman's Bible study. That really, to be honest, I'd only been in a couple of months and I left right afterwards. So I kind of feel like, once again, I was supposed to be there for a minute because I had shared embarrassed. I lost Mike's Bible. And of course, Rhonda Thompson, the flake kicks in, right? The enemy tells you, what have you done? And so some women in the room were praying, and I remember they were praying very sweetly, and it was quiet and praying. And I was like, oh no, Jesus, I need a neon sign. I need this Bible back.
Right.
The depression and the self-attack of, this isn't even funny anymore.
Right.
You don't know where this Bible is. And when my husband died, I did not ask God to give him back. But I did ask God, I need you to give me the Bible back.
So I'll run to you, letting go of how I lived in what I've known. To sit here at your throne and worship you.